So today's episode is specifically for coaches who have limited time. And when I say limited time, at a lot of clubs, a lot of teams, you're going to be able to go 5 or 6 workouts a week at least for an hour and a half to 2 hours. I would say that's like a good abundant amount of time. I think if you can get 6 hour and a half long swims in a week, you're doing pretty good. Now, a lot of the top teams and top clubs, their top guys are doing 7 to 9 workouts a week, and they're probably swimming 14 to 18 hours a week, around there, depending on the club. So, but not everybody's in that situation. Some of us we don't have control over our pool time, or we're fighting with another, whether that's the public schools or another club. I know in my hometown of El Paso, like, it's almost 1 million people in that city, and pool space is an issue, and they don't have, I would say, a ton of swimmers in the city compared to other cities of the same size. They don't have a super huge swimming community, but all the pools are owned by the city, and the public schools get first dibs, and nobody owns their own pool there. So it's just tough. So that means we're in a position of limited practice time. And when I say limited practice time, I'm probably talking 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes with like 11 and overs. Because really, for a lot of kids, 45 minutes to an hour is pretty good, especially for 10 and unders. So how do we get the most out of practice? Because if you try to emulate, like if you go look at a Bob Bowman workout or one of these college coaches' workouts, and you try to emulate what they're doing, and you see something like 3 rounds of 2 300s, 2 200s, and 1 400, whatever it is, like when you have limited amount of time, limited amount of space, those types of sets are just going to be so much harder to get in, and you're always going to feel like you're not doing enough. So step number 1 is like accept where you're at. I mean, of course, if there's some possibility to get more, you can do your thing, try to find a way to work more. But if you have 45 minutes a day, 4 days a week, there is no point in stressing over volume. Like, you're just not going to hit it. And if you try to get into the volume game with somebody who has more time and space than you do, you're going to lose every time. You're just literally going to run out of space. Even if you had athletes who could make hundreds on a minute and you had a 45-minute practice, you're only going to get 4,500 yards, which is pretty low compared to, I would say, some teams that have a lot more practice time. Like, say you have 2 hours in the water, right? Those guys easily hit 6 to 7K on a regular basis. And you're not going to do 45 100s on a minute. You're just not going to do that. So, first off, accept where you're at. Like, we don't need to complain. We don't need to wish you were doing more. And you also don't need to design a program that's revolved around volume. Like, just throw that out the window. And I would encourage a lot of age group coaches to do this as well, even if you have the space. On our team, like especially our 11 and 12s, volume isn't really part of the conversation. There's some baseline stuff we want to make sure they can get to make sure they're ready for the next level. But we're not there getting obsessed with how much yards we're doing. We're obsessed with what are we accomplishing in the day-to-day. And that's what you need to do. So once you've made that mental shift, now let's talk about how do you accomplish more. Okay, I'm going to talk about things that make you go slow and things that make you go fast, because things that make you go slow will eat up time, okay? Step 1, being unprepared, not knowing what you're going to do for practice, right? If your athletes are standing around you waiting for you to write it on the whiteboard, you're unprepared, right? You're not ready for when you have a lot of downtime or idle time, you're unprepared. Next is new things slow you down. If you're doing something new, that will slow you down because you got to teach it, whether that's a new skill, a new drill, and there's always time that you're going to have to teach. But I'm a huge proponent of spend a lot of time early in the season teaching the essentials. For me, it's like my 3 to 5 drills I use per stroke. I want to make sure all my athletes, they know how to do it. Like, just for example, for freestyle, it's single arm, hesitation drill, and power triangle or long dog, and then 6 kick switch sometimes. And that's really 90% of the freestyle work we're going to do. I mean, I saw a document going around once of like all the different freestyle drills you can do. And look, if you want to be doing that where you have like a new drill every single day, good luck. I just think it's a waste of time because it takes so long to teach it when the essentials teach you most of what you need to know. And like if you can get your kids 97% the way there, you're doing pretty dang good. So, teaching. And I would spend time in the beginning, and I tell my coaches all the time, I tell my team, we're going to go slow to go fast. So we're going to teach a lot in the beginning, and then later when I say single arm, I expect it to be done well, and I want to coach you through it, but I'm not going to hold your hand through what this drill needs to look like. We've been doing this for 3 months, right? And this is very doable at all levels. Another thing that makes you go slow is equipment changing. So equipment is great. Unless they're a little more advanced, more experienced athletes, switching equipment just takes time, right? Fins on, fins off, paddles on, paddles off, snorkels on, snorkels off. So my advice there is just like if you're going to use equipment, use it for the whole set. With older kids, I do switch equipment more, but I do run into workout problems where we got stuck switching gears and switching equipment and it messed up the set and we had to stop and reset. So switching equipment, unless, again, you teach your athletes how to switch, you can set the standard. Okay. And then this goes into my last one. No practice standards, right? The opposite of this is having practice standards. One of my practice standards is when we start a set, we finish it. Unless I input some break into that set, we're going straight through, right? In between sets, we're writing a workout out on paper, putting it on the pull deck. In between set, we're taking 1 to 2 minutes between sets, and then we're going straight through it. So those are things that slow you down. And then the no standards thing, it's like if you don't have an expectation of your athletes of how they show up, how they swim a set, what time they get in the water, that sort of thing, it just gets in the way, right? Also, let's see, what else makes you go slow? I think being unprepared is the big one. If you take care of that, like just ahead of time, you know exactly what you're going to do that day, you're doing a really good job, coach. So keep it up. Okay, things that make you go fast. Ready? And this is going to be the bread and butter of this. This is like the big nuggets you're going to take away. Memorized warm-ups. And we don't even really call them warm-ups. A lot of the time we call them first sets just because we start skill work right out the gate. We start skill work. Sometimes I start my aerobic work for that day right out the gate. But our team has about maybe 4 or 5 memorized warm-ups. And not like one age group has all 5 memorized. Like our seniors do 1 or 2, I do 1 or 2, the other groups do 1 or 2. But we have memorized warm-ups. So like they walk up and I say, okay, we're doing our body line warm-up. And it's like, boom, that's it. They know what they're doing. The next 15 minutes of practice is set. Everybody knows what they're doing. I'm not explaining. There's no confusion. We've done this 10 times. We're going to do it 10 more times, so we're going to crush it. So and it's not just warm, it's memorized set. We have a COM underwater set that everybody knows. It's not a warm-up, but it's a series of 25s that everybody knows how to do. We've done it before with progressions, like freestyle progression. It's these 4 drills we're going to do in a row, backstroke progression. So and our whole team crushes this in dryland. Like for our dryland and our warm-up to swim procedures, we have stuff, we just say like jumping jack series. And it's a series of 6 different things. And we have 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds memorize what this is. So memorize sets, memorize series. These things will make you go faster. I think the next thing is minimal complexity, depending on the level. So you'll hear me talk about this all the time. Because if you're doing like hundreds where you're trying to get 20 things in one time, you're just going to run into problems. People won't be executing right. You'll end up swimming a bunch of yards and not executing. And if you're already crunched on time, you need to execute. So when it comes to like not winning the volume game, right? Like you're not going to win the volume game. You're not going to hit more yards than another team. So how do we get more quality swimming? One, you got to make every yard matter. And like I already gave you one key already. Like no warm-ups. What do you need to warm? Like I wouldn't say do 1050s max effort out the gate, but like you don't really need to like warm up in quotations if you're just listening here. You don't need to spend 20 minutes just warming up because you can teach your team that we jump in the water at 5 o'clock. But at 4:45, you're starting a dynamic warm up. We're doing on land, like movement, mobility type stuff, and you're moving. So you can make the beginning of practice just as beneficial as the end of practice if you're intentional and you teach these things. So you'll get more out of there. And when I say skill work, it doesn't always mean like slow 25s or slow 50s. My body line warm up that we do, it starts out the gate with like kicking and posture, and then you'll go kick drill, and then we'll go kick drill swim, and the whole time the purpose is to hold our body line and to hold our kick throughout the set. And it turns into a great kick set. It turns into solid aerobic work, but added bonus, we're working on skills. And I didn't have to give out this crazy complexity. It's just like my instructions are, these are the drills we're doing. And the kick you have on your posture kick is the kick you're going to have the whole entire time. Okay? So take out the fluff. Take out the fluff. You just don't need it. Anytime you're doing like a smooth swim, I would turn it into some sort of drill or some sort of stroke count. Like that's fluff. Like 200 recovery. You can make it 200. You'll go 25 hesitation drill, 25 count your strokes. And I want every time you count your strokes, I want it to match. So we just turn this easy thing into something valuable. So take out the fluff. Next, you got to swim fast. You got to swim fast really often. And there's different levels of speed. If you're working with, let's say, some older athletes, you know, if you do 550s max effort on 5 minutes, you're going to have a hard time doing that every day and still getting quality out of it, right? But on Monday, we could do 550s max effort freestyle, okay, on 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever. Like, get really good work out of it. And then the next day, our speed work could be just underwaters. We're going to go off the blocks, and we're going to time you to the 15-meter. So it's still speed work, still stressing the system, but just a little bit different. And I think here's the beautiful thing with some shorter practices is you're going to recover better. There's just not enough time to accumulate a crazy amount of fatigue, right? Like, you're not going to accumulate as much fatigue in a 3,000-yard practice as you are in a 7,000-yard practice. And that's all relative to the ability of the athlete. But do things fast. Intensity is your lever. Even when you're doing skill work, so many coaches make their skill and drill work slow, which for teaching, great, go slow. But slow doesn't win races. Slow doesn't make you a better swimmer. And we're talking about competitive swimming here. This isn't rec league, right? If you're a rec league coach, I'm sorry. No insults to you. I'm just saying, like there's a reason why we do this, right? So an example for drill, like I'm going to stick to the same thing I said, that body line warm up. Okay, we're going to go a 50 kick with a really strong kick. And then we're going to go a 50 drill holding the same legs. Their heart rate's going to be jacked up. And then we're going to time the drill. We'll do 350s descend of that drill. And they have to do the drill properly. So like say we're doing hesitation, I make the kids pause for like a 3 count. Sometimes they rush it, or I'll even say a 6 kick, like a 6 kick single arm where they kick 6 times, rip through, kick 6 times, rip through. And we're going to time them. And it's like you start calling out times, they're going to get a little more out of it. So intensity is going to be your lever. And this is where you need to monitor the intensity and to make sure you need to ask yourself as the coach, am I getting the intensity out of this that I wanted? And an example is like with a more unexperienced athlete or some of our younger ones, like doing hundreds all out, the intensity is not going to be that high. Like let's say kids like a 100 100 freestyler, and you're doing hundreds all out off the block, and they're going 115s. There's no intensity there. They're not even close to their best time. It's really not that fast comparatively to them. But let's say we did 50s off the block and they're going like 32s, 33s. That's much closer to the level of intensity. So choose the intensity that's appropriate for your athletes. You can have them do a 200 all out all you want. But if it's slow, who cares what you put on paper? You just did a slow. What I tell my athletes is, I want you to actually go fast here, not a little faster than normal. So I just want to make sure you understand, a little faster than normal is not what I mean by intensity. I mean go hard. So that's a great way, intensity. Whenever you're not sure what to do, how to get most out of it, the intensity's got to be up. If I were running a 45-minute practice, um, we would kick, we would do skill works, and we would swim fast. That's probably about it. What we would do. And when I say kicking, all forms of kick, whether that's flutter kick, dolphin kick, and breaststroke kicking, just so that could be our foundation. And if you're worried about like the foundation or the aerobic base of the athlete, like all the work elevates that system, right? Just because you're sprinting doesn't mean you're also not making your athlete better aerobically. So just keep that in mind. These systems that we use don't work in isolation. I don't have like the perfect formula for you, but when you feel like you're working on max effort work, you are, but you're also stressing the aerobic system, especially if you do repeats. Some would argue that once you start going into the aerobic system on that type of work, you're not doing max effort work anymore, which that also makes sense. But so just to kind of stay on target here, another thing I would do is I would see what we can do on land. So especially for like general fitness type work, drylands is amazing for that. So where some people do like, hey, we need to swim a lot of smooth yards for our general fitness to be prepared for the work, like work capacity. You can also do that on land. Like working out on land will also make you more fit. It also makes you a better athlete. Better athletes make better swimmers. So if I was really limited on pool space, I would see, okay, how can I make our kids better athletes outside of the water? Through stability, through mobility, through strength. Those are your three main levers for making kids better outside of the water. And that could be, like I said, the 15 minutes before practice. It could be 15 minutes after practice. Like after we get out of the water, we are always going to finish with core work, right? Our legs might be dead. Our shoulders might be dead, even for just 45 minutes. But we are going to learn how to hold that midline. And because that strong core, that strong midline is so essential to great swimming overall when it comes to connection and just holding everything together. So I would really incorporate land stuff. And again, I would not overthink it. I mean, there's so many resources out there for just good land protocols, whether that's just body weight stuff, that sort of thing. Like you can get a lot done, and then you can get a lot done with some really cheap tools. If I was coaching high school athletes and we were limited on land space, I would buy a couple sets of adjustable dumbbells. I think power blocks are amazing. I've owned a pair of power blocks for like 5 years, and half that time I kept them outside because of the apartment we lived in, and they still work great. They were like $250. They go up to 50 pounds. They're fantastic. Most high school aged athletes, if you're just doing dumbbell work, don't need any more in their hand than that. So and then resistance bands, man, there's just so many simple tools. You don't need a gym. You don't need a gym to do strength work. Strength work is just resistance work. If you have more added resistance, then if you all you need is enough resistance to cause a stimulus, if that makes sense. At a certain point, if you only do bodyweight push-ups, you'll stop getting stronger because your body's fully adapted to that stimulus. Doing push-ups isn't going to do anything for it. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a 5-pound weight on their back. Boom, we just added a stimulus. It's the same thing in swimming. We go a little faster, we swim a little more, which in this situation, really hard to do more. Or we add more, we do it more often, which is like extra workouts. Again, similar situation. So those are my big things. That's what I would do. I would keep practices very simple, and I would swim fast often. I would just change how we swim fast. That's the big thing. So if on Monday you're sprinting freestyle, on Tuesday we're going to sprint underwaters. On Wednesday we're going to sprint. I would probably do IM transitions. Yeah, especially if you don't have kids who can really execute on swimming a lot of full fly or a lot of full breaststroke. Cycling IM transitions, like today we're doing fly back, the next day we're doing back breast, and then breast free. Thursday we're going to go kicking again, or Thursday could even be like just skills, like just make it a great skill day. That would be awesome. And then Friday we're going to do main stroke or backstroke or our weak stroke, whatever it is. So many things you can do. And I know a lot of teams, if you have the time, you can have an all dry land type practice. Again, we every now and then we switch every season, but we've had seasons where we've had a weights only morning or a dry land only morning, and man, the kids love it. It's so good to just, you don't got to jump in the cold water early in the morning. You wake up, we get stronger, we get a little more fit, we're good to go. So that's how I would get the most out of it. When it comes to like younger kids, you're just never going to go wrong with skills work and kicking. You're really not. I'm talking about 12 and unders, especially kids that don't have breast and fly. Like anything that makes their skills better, and then kicking. There's just, you could just do so much with that, and I would just ignore volume. You can swim 25s and 50s and 100% have your kids ready to swim great 100s, even 200s, because a lot of time it just comes down to toughness. Some people think like the only way to have a great 200 is I need to be able to do a bunch of 200s at practice, and that's just not how it works. Your body just needs to be ready to go the speed you need it to go, and then you build the endurance from there. So I'll leave you with my last, like, this is like one of my sayings, and I think this will help you with if you're running shorter practices. Step 1 is go the speed. Step 2 is hold the speed. And you can add on to it. Step 1 is go the speed with the right technique. Step 2 is hold the speed with the right technique. Because we have had kids who can do a 25 of the ugliest butterfly you've ever seen, and they go the right speed, in quotations, and then after that turn, it's awful, right? So that would be a great philosophy for you to have. Your practices are going to be fun. And then my last, I have one more piece of advice. If you do run a program where you're like swimming fast all the time, track the times, especially if you do something similar over like a 3, 4, 5 week period. Like track those times and see how they're doing. So and then like a good rule of thumb is like if you just progressively see everybody getting slower as you go, you're probably doing too much. Like they're just not recovered. So pick the appropriate stimulus. But that's all I got. I hope this helped. Share this with a coach who is limited on time. And just remember, don't try to win the volume game. Try to win the intensity game. And try to win the consistency game. And you can win the execution game. Because we've all seen those athletes who might not be as good as everybody else, but they swim everything a lot better, and eventually they get up there. So have a great day. Let's go better coaches. If you're really interested in like leveling up your coach, I created a program called the Swim Coach Launchpad. It teaches you how to teach all 4 strokes, and specifically the fastest way to teach all 4 strokes. So I think that's my favorite part of the whole course. I even have a bunch of videos, like over 80 videos or something like that you get to have, and you get to show your athletes or review with your coaches. But yeah, Swim Coach Launchpad, lot in there. How to write workouts, how to lead your team. But the teaching of the strokes thing, I think that's the one I'm the most proud of, just because it's not just this high level, this is what good technique looks like. These are the cues I use. These are the exact drills I use, and this is how I teach it so that you can teach the skills the fastest. So have a great day. Let's go be better swim coaches.